Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here. I am from the Locked On Nationals podcast. It is our friend Javier Reyes, who is from the Locked On Padres podcast. He's the biggest Jersey-based local San Diego television star that I know, and he is here to talk all things season 4, Drive to Survive on Netflix. No, we're going to talk about baseball today and a lack of movement. Today's show, which you all know first, is brought to you by our friends from BetOnline and BetOnline.net. It is the best place to bet on the 2022 NCAA tournament and more. But Javi and I are going to talk some baseball after that intro video.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Javi. Sorry, I don't have any. They should make a Locked On crossover video because I feel like it's weird to have one of our videos playing.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
But I think we're not supposed to play it. I could be wrong though. I mean,
Well,
too late
I did.
now. It was really nice.
I did.
I really
I played.
like the tune. The tune is good. I will say that the tune is really, really good.
It got you going. I could tell you were dancing a little
It did
bit.
get me going. Yeah.
I tell you what's not getting you going is the lack of signings right now in Major League Baseball. There are some, but we want the big fish. I'll give you my theory on it. Look, the lockout just ended, and especially for the as I mentioned, the big fish, the Freddie Freemans of the world, the Carlos Correas. I think it's pretty reasonable to say like it would look bad if the teams just signed them outright. I think they're fine now, but like if you signed them last week, tampering, and look, there's definitely tampering happening. Teams have been reaching out to guys, back channeling through agents, whatever. But it would look bad, right? It would look like you had been tampering during the what should have been dead period during the lockout. And so that's my theory as which why we're not seeing all this movement is number one, they haven't been talking as much directly. And number two, you can't just be like, we've got him. We signed him. It happened immediately. That's why I was confused. Why everybody was like, let's buckle up, fasten your seatbelts. Here it comes. It's like, They have to talk first.
Yeah. And look, my buddy Josh Neighbors from Locked On Nationals podcast, who my listeners at this point should be very familiar with. I'm glad to be joining you on this adventure. Recording this on a Sunday. So in fairness, if something kicks off right when people hear this, not our fault. Blame MLB. I agree with you. And it just stinks because I wish that they had the NBA approach where it's like, yeah, I mean, you can't tamper, but like, we also don't really care. Just don't go on the Tonight Show and do it. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
like with what's his face, Magic Johnson with Paul George years ago. Like, don't do that. Otherwise, like, just be cute with it. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to cheat, but it's okay. Just make sure
part of it's implied, but Magic is just like he's just so one way. Like his tweets.
Yeah.
Like if you even follow Magic Johnson on Twitter, he's like the Lakers are bad. It's like thank you, Magic, for your expert analysis.
LeBron James is going to need to be a big-time performer for the Los Angeles Lakers today.
It'd be helpful if Anthony Davis was healthy.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
He's funny.
And that got him in trouble, obviously, like you mentioned. But none of the owners / GMs, besides Steve Cohen, are on, I mean, they're not very public people. You know what I mean? It's not really the nature of being a baseball GM or being a, whatever president of the team. So I would say it's like that part of it they're fine with. I just think they need to give it some time, right? I mean, you just and look, especially for the guys like the Correas and Freddie Freemans. I mean, you got to get offers and then see what else people are offering you, right? I mean, in Freddie Freeman's case, he feels like somebody that is going to at least give the Atlanta Braves a chance, I think, to potentially match or exceed some kind of offer, and as opposed to a guy like Carlos Correa, who's maybe going to, I think, cast a wider net, right? He seems like he could go many different directions. Freddie Freeman feels like, I'm not sure how you feel about this. I think Yankees, I think Braves. I've seen Dodgers mentioned. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one.
Yeah, the Dodgers, yeah.
It feels like there's a few directions, and also the kind of guy. Yes, I'm sorry. But I'm not sure if you feel the same way, but he feels like the kind of guy he is at least going to give the Braves a chance to re-sign him.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely give them a chance, right? But I think that they can't abuse that power of the
Right.
fact that he'll give them a chance, and you don't want to, because I think someone was saying in our like group DM, like the Braves made $100 million in profit last year. Like Freddie Freeman isn't going to look at that and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to take less." It's like, no, you should probably sink into what, 3 extra million or whatever the heck it might cost for him into that profit margin, I guess. So that's like really that's the interesting thing about this, right? Is there's these best players available, and this is the only sport where they don't sign quickly. I know that there are a lot of offers, and I know that there's a lot to like kind of get through, but still, bottom line is that it's just kind of weird that we're in this world where, and I'm not blaming reporters necessarily, but it's just not. I mean, I always make fun of the like, the John Heyman tweets like before the lockout ends, where it's like, the Padres, Giants, Mariners, Cubs, Yankees, Red Sox, Orioles, Washington Nationals, and Colorado Rockies are interested in Chris Bryant. It's like, wow, like you're telling me they're interested in a good player? Like, what a freaking shock to the system. That is always so frustrating because then it's like, I don't know what that means. In other sports, when I hear a team is like, hey, we're interested in Kevin Durant, I'm like, oh shit. Like this could be like a legit thing. Like this actually feels more real, especially when you're reporting sources from the team. Nowadays, it's just with baseball, you're kind of like, all right,
Well,
cool.
it's
Like
so
yesterday,
much
my
of who's
team.
willing to spend money. Sorry to
Mhm.
cut you off there, but like that's the big thing. Go ahead, finish your point.
It's just like my team yesterday. I was seeing some reports that like them and the Red Sox are like leading teams, and the Giants are like leading teams to sign Seiya Suzuki out of Japan. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that would be cool. But also, I don't know what this means. I don't know if it's more than other sports. I don't know what this means. I don't know if this means like you just called him once and that you, Darvish, took a photo with him and he was like, yeah, I'll think about it. Or if it's like, yo, I'm close. Like this is really about to happen. And as a Padres fan, I know what happens when we say a deal is close to being done. The last time that happened, it sent me into a
Ken
spiral of depression.
Rosenthal.
Yeah, sent me into a spiral of depression. So,
That was
uh,
rough.
on my birthday, unbelievable, just
I,
disgraceful moment.
that was bad. I will say this too. You mentioned the Braves, the revenue. Also, a big note. I believe they're owned by the guy who owns or the group that owns Liberty Media, right? They had mentioned Drive to Survive. Um, Formula One is absolutely taking off. Their ratings are
Yeah.
through the roof, and so the revenues from that are going to be there as well. Liberty Media is rocking and rolling right now. The idea that they don't have the money to re-sign Freddie Freeman is there, and look, I think all the fans too, like all the Braves fans I've seen, all the people who followed on Twitter, they're not dumb, right? These are the Braves
Yeah.
fans are amongst some of the most passionate, loyal, and some of the most smart because they just have such a great fan base all across the South. These people know their baseball, and they know the Braves can afford him. So
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those deals where it's actually very comparable to the national situation, right? Rendon walked. They re-signed Strasburg, and we with Soto coming up here, like they know the Nationals have the capacity. Sure, it might put them in a tough spot, but the Nationals know they have the capacity to sign Juan Soto. The Nationals fans do at least. It would be
Mm-hmm.
unacceptable to the fan base, despite the fact that you just won a World Series, if they did not go out and re-sign him, if that makes sense. So the Braves, in my opinion, are on the same kind of hook, right? I think it would be malpractice not to bring him back because he is such a star. He is such a big part of the fabric of that team, kind of that
Mm-hmm.
city. Think about Atlanta sports fans clown themselves on Twitter more than anybody else. You'll see with the Falcons and the Hawks. Thrasher's jokes all the time as well. That's a fan base that's very self-aware, and I think losing a guy like that would be pretty. It'd be pretty, detrimental. I think to that team. Now, obviously, the fans will still be there and whatnot, but look, there's no reason not to bring him back, and I think all of us across baseball. The Braves are an awesome team who have won a bunch. We don't view them like the Dodgers or the Yankees, right? I think, even though I covered a team that's in the same division, I don't want to see Freddie Freeman leave that division. I don't want to see him go somewhere else. I've mentioned this a lot. Same way I don't want Juan Soto to go somewhere else. I think it's very important that stars stay in certain markets so we don't have, Correa and Freddie Freeman are wearing the pinstripes. Like, I don't need
Mm-hmm.
that. I don't think any of us need that as a sport as a whole.
Yeah, and two things. One, absolutely F1 is taking off 100%. F1's taking off so much that the Ringer cut its Major League Baseball podcast feed, and then that's an F1 podcast. So number two, I think the only way the Freddie not signing back with Atlanta thing is more digestible is if they somehow have another star first baseman like your Matt Olson, who's been widely reported to be available. That's the only way where you can look at the Braves and be like, okay, you didn't just say, I don't want to spend money. You were like, we don't want to spend money, but also at least we're like, okay, but we're going to like still want to compete and whatnot.
Right.
I don't know if that's the case because I don't know if the Braves have the same prospect capital necessarily as some other teams like the Yankees that have been rumored for Matt Olson. But that's the only way. I don't know if I see that. But yeah, if they let Freddie Freeman walk, it's a great example about just kind of what's wrong with baseball. You know what I mean? It's a good summation of like, all right, so you won the World Series. And also the part that you also didn't mention that's a really good thing to bring up too is that like their other superstars, Ozzy Albies, and especially Ronald Acuna, you got them on unbelievable steals basically for deals. So it's not like the Yankees where I know that the Yankees have money infinite, but the Yankees still have to worry about Aaron Judge and like whether or not to extend him. You have some other teams that have to worry about extending guys. They at least have that as almost a fallback excuse to be like, well, we want to give the money to this guy. The Braves don't have that. What are you going to do? You're going to pay, I almost said the guy who's been in trouble with the law, but like you can't really, get by with any of that.
Yeah. All right. Quick word from our sponsors here. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline and BetOnline.net. You guys can go to BetOnline today. Selection Sunday is today, so you guys will see the Field of 68 for both the men's and the women's tournaments here pretty soon. And you guys can bet on all the action at BetOnline and BetOnline.net. They don't just have basketball, though. They've got baseball odds. They've got UFC. They've got soccer, F1, NASCAR, Vegas casino games, and more. So you guys get a BetOnline and BetOnline.net today. Check it out. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right, Javi. So I actually want to mention this next thing. We got a lot of announcer trading, horse trading in the announcer game right now. I think, and it's really interesting. And also, it's going to affect baseball coverage, right? Joe Buck is heading to ESPN in what is ostensibly a trade. It's hard to feel like that Fox did not get fleeced here in this situation. So Joe, it sounds like according to Andrew Marchand from the New York Post that Joe Buck is heading to ESPN to partner up with Troy Aikman. The reason why it has to be a trade is that Troy Aikman's contract was up. So he's going to go to ESPN. Joe Buck is getting essentially traded to ESPN because his contract was not matching Troy's. And in return, ESPN gets the pick. Fox gets the pick of a Big Ten game early in the season. For you non-college football heads, I think it might be Notre Dame against Ohio State Sunday night, first week of the season. If you're a college football fan, you know that first game is Sunday night. Is usually on ESPN or ABC. I would be I would be surprised if that's not the game and they took a worse game because Joe Buck's awesome. I'm not sure how you feel about Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. I'm not sure how you feel about Joe Buck and John Smoltz. I'm not a Smoltz guy. For my money, I think people just hate on Joe Buck because it's like the popular thing to do. I think he's really good. I think he's the best in the business. He's professional. He rarely messes up. He clearly loves football. And, if you don't know this, you're an idiot. Baseball is his passion, right? His dad, obviously Jack Buck, very, very famous. And so baseball is in his DNA. I'm curious to what you think. Now, I have not seen any news about him doing any ESPN baseball stuff because they did announce that the new booth for Sunday Night Baseball is Carl Ravitch, I believe Eduardo Perez, and I think I'm missing one other person. But I would love to see him do some baseball there. Your thoughts on this move, and what do you think? What direction you think Fox should go for their new head play-by-play guy for baseball?
Well, I will say one thing, first of all, with the Joe Buck thing, just to attest. I agree. I'm going to go super extreme with it. That's right. I'm ready for it. I just rarely get mad or excited about announcers in general. I find that people are so overly, because here's the thing. I'm always just talking. I don't know how to shut up. That's one of my big problems in life, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always just talking to my friends. And everyone's like, yeah, but they're not teaching me anything. It's like, okay, go listen to podcasts, go listen to Locked On, you know what I'm saying? Go read. You can read articles, justbaseball.com, great website, like on whatever sport. That if you really want to learn, which you claim, because I don't think fans actually do want to, right? I think that they're just kind of like complaining about stuff. Then that's what you do. I am so far that like I loved Booger McFarland for ESPN when he was doing Monday Night, because the memes and just I remember when there was one time like the other guy in the booth was talking and like, you know, and you have to set up your 4-3 defense and hopefully set up for this next play or whatever, and then Booger just interjects. He goes, to make a play. And that's all he says. And my friends and I laughed for, I'm not kidding, like a half hour. We were like, yes, Booger. Like, that's right. And I don't know why. It just killed me. So I love Booger McFarland. And maybe, yeah, but you don't have it right because you've got Don Orsillo and Mud. You've got Mark Grant as well. You've got the best duo, possibly now officially, especially with this move, like in the baseball realm. That is true. But nonetheless, I still just kind of get so amped about it. And also, I got to send you this video of when Troy Aikman, I swear, just had like a stroke on air. I don't know. Let me see if I can play it through the thing right now. Hold on, ready? It's like he's like, I don't know if you can hear that. I'm gonna send that. That's terrible for the listeners right now. But I'm gonna send you that.
Also, afterwards. Just throwing Troy Aikman under the bus. That was that's really kind of you.
And it's funny because I have another question for you. I don't know, what was Aikman just better this year? What happened? Did he know that because his contract is up, he's like, I'm going to take him shots? Because Jimmy Garoppolo, that game, he just came basically. He was just like, yeah, he was terrible for any. It's very interesting, this world we're living in of like big time profile announcers being more of a thing now.
Well, I'm not sure if you saw the contracts. I mean, the contracts for these guys are gigantic. I think. Let me see if I can find the Troy Aikman contract, because it was like $60 million. And that's the thing is, but Joe Buck is, in my opinion, worth that. Now, you know, ESPN's going to have to use him in more than I saw. He's going to be involved in some ESPN Plus projects. It's going to be great to have his voice on these things. I know they're trying to populate their platform. I know they're trying to build that, and that's the future, right? ESPN, they're going to shift more and more things to the Plus. Now, look, I love ESPN Plus as it is right now. As somebody who's a huge college basketball fan and gambler, and also somebody who loves the UFC, it's a really great resource for me. I love it. It's awesome. They're going to try, but I don't watch like Stephen A's World, right? I don't watch stuff like, Peyton and Eli, dicking around on a Tuesday on ESPN Plus. Like, I don't watch that stuff. It's not for me. But, if you gave me some Joe Buck, baseball pieces where he's talking about some interesting series or games, right? I might be all in on that. I mean, I think 4 days in October would have been better off if Joe Buck was in that and involved in that, right? It's already a great
Hello. What is going on? I can't hear Josh. I don't know what's going on. This is weird. I'm freaking out, folks. This has never happened before. I can't hear him. He's telling me to stop now. Let's see. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's on my end. No, it's not on my end.
It's me.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, there he's back.
I'm back. You got me? Yeah, you got me.
Yeah, he's back.
You got me. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So I'll just pick up right where I left off. That would have been better off with Joe Buck in it. So I love that stuff, but he should be calling games, right? I love Carl Ravitch. I don't think they should take away the Sunday Night Baseball booth from him. I want to see that because I think he is excellent and nobody knows baseball as well. Also, love the StatCast ones that they've got with that was Jason Benetti, Eduardo Perez, and then forget the third person last year, but that was always really good. I actually preferred that broadcast of Vasgersian. On the Fox side, I'm a huge Kevin Burkhardt guy. Look, I know we love Joe Davis, and Joe Davis is the natural fit to take that number one spot. That'll be the transition I think that happens. I want to see Kevin Burkhardt doing more, though. I think he's really good for everything he does. I think he's very good for baseball as well. But Joe Davis, I think there might come a moment here where he's going to have to stop doing Dodgers games because he's now the primary guy for college football, or the second guy for college football. He is now going to be their primary guy for baseball. He is doing a lot. He does college basketball for them as well. He's a second guy to Gus Johnson. So they're asking him to do a lot on the Fox side. He's a huge baseball fan. I think he'd love to keep the Dodgers thing, but we saw it with, Joe Buck did not do. I think he actually does. He might do NFL. I'm not sure if he's doing NFL at this point in time. But we saw Joe Buck couldn't do that day-to-day stuff because he's so busy with that job. So I think Joe Davis and Kevin Burkhardt are the two guys I want to see over. I know it's not passe to be supportive of a Dodgers broadcaster here, Avi, but I got to say, I do love Joe Davis.
No shots to Joe Davis. Nothing but good vibes from him.
Yes.
He's not like some of the other like Dodger Nation websites that are like,
right.
Yeah, actually Mike Clevenger sucks. And actually worst rotation in baseball and like just nonstop trolling bullshit where I'm just like, all right, guys, like, can we give this a rest? Like, congratulations on finally winning a World Series in a short and truncated season. Yes. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Like, I don't know what else to add. I think that it's going to be interesting just to see where we head in a lot of baseball media respects. I mean, with the Peacock deal, we didn't even talk about that with the deal at Peacock.
Apple TV Plus.
Deal at Apple TV Plus, which final note on that, before we move on, I just want to say, in terms of just getting extra baseball, yes, I know it's not going on Netflix or whatever the heck, right? But it's at least a deal and shows things. The fact that I can find baseball fans complaining about this is exactly why I hate baseball culture. You fake frauds out there who are like, yeah, I want baseball to be more exciting. I want us to get better. Yet you hate every single solitary thing, even the TV deals you hate. The baseball fans are so deranged that they don't like an
extra innings counterpoint
rule.
Though? The one thing I don't like though is the blackout for Apple TV Plus, right? The whole point, I think the one thing we asked for is just baseball to be visible to all. I love the deal. It's more revenue. It's more money for everybody. It's more money. That's good. That's positive. It's also going 21st century. Yes. But at the same time, don't black out the game's local markets. Now, I know you want those people to watch and subscribe or whatever to Apple TV Plus, but do not black it out in local markets. Not a fan of that, but go ahead and continue.
I will say at least there's an avenue to make it possible for more people that at least watch games, because it's just so frustrating for a lot of people. But that is a good point. And then I was just going to say on the extra innings rule, a rule that I don't necessarily like in a vacuum. I think it's a little bit weird. My bottom line was like, okay, maybe 15 games you're going to watch. There's 162. So who cares? Like, God forbid it's even weird in a different in a bad way, or quote unquote bad way. It's just different. God forbid we mix it up and whatnot, and everyone's cheering that we got the regular extra innings rules back. It's just, I hate baseball fans. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, the thing is, so I love the extra innings rule. It really did make sure the games ended, right? It was cool. It was different. Yeah. The games were not going super long. It was, and that's part of this to me is that, the big conversation right now is about how they're changing the sport and changing baseball. Let's take one more quick break. Let's actually hit on some of that stuff right here. But today's show is brought to you by our friends at Built Bar. Go to built.com today. It's built.com. Promo code LOCK15, LOCKED15, LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com today. Plenty of new flavors available. They always have new ones coming out as well. They're covered in chocolate. Most Built Bars have 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, 17 grams of protein. Got flavors like mint brownie, coconut almond, and new this month, white chocolate, cookies, and cream. So go to built.com today. It's built.com. Promo code LOCK15, LOCKED15, LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com today. So, we saw some of these new rule changes, Javi. Yeah. Your thoughts on – look, I like pitch clock. I'm fine with that. I think eventually it gets internalized. I cover a lot of college baseball, and I mentioned this a bunch. These guys do eventually internalize the pitch clock. Like, it's there. Nobody's doing this number on the mound being like, well, we got 6 seconds. Like, nobody's doing that. It's not how it works. Eventually internalize it. And umpires also, they're baseball heads too. they're sometimes resistant to change. So they're going to, in my opinion, I think we're going to see them be pretty lax in enforcing it. There'll be a lot of warnings. It's going to be a lot of, hey, we got to, pick up pace just a little bit here. I will say my one concern, get your thoughts on this, playoffs. I think there's some of the playoffs of like the pitcher holding for a long time, the drama building. I don't want to lose that at all. Now, the games are too slow in the playoffs as it is. Yes, I understand that. But like, the playoffs, maybe you bounce the clock like 5 extra seconds because I don't want to force any action. I want to force any action when it matters most.
I'm okay with playoff changes like not being as frequent or at all, just because you're watching the playoffs. Like these are the official, like these are the ultimate games. I'm never like, oh, this is taking too long. I'm one of those people who's like, oh, the drama's building, right? It's very rare that during the regular season, with exception of like some big rivalry games where you're like, oh my God, this is the one. Instead, I'm like, all right, cool. We're playing Colorado for the second time of the year. Like, I don't really like, like, I'm not going to like freak out and whatnot. So I wouldn't mind that. And just I compare baseball fans. I'm not done with this yet. They remind me a lot. They remind me. No, you didn't cut me off. It's fine. They remind me a lot of the nerds, Josh. I'm talking pop culture nerds. I'm talking Star Wars. I'm talking The Last of Us. I'm talking all these people. They make their theories, right? And their predictions. And this is how we want it to go. And this is how we want the big changes to be. And here are the twists. And then you get mad because they're not the twists you wanted. They're not the perfect thing you want. I guarantee you there are people out there that were pissed when they did that new home run derby rule, where instead of just 25 straight balls or whatever, and you just swing whenever you want, that it became 2 minutes. I guarantee you there are people writing think pieces about how this ruins the home run derby. It's about the steady climb and choosing the pitch. And then I watched the new version. I was like, this is fantastic. Like, I don't feel like this is going to go on for 7 hours. Right. I guarantee you there are people complaining, and now there's nobody complaining. That's what always happens. There has never been some new rule in a sport where everyone almost universally is like, yes. Like, immediately, everyone's always complaining.
Change. Love
Baseball's
change.
One sport, man. Now, don't get me wrong. Now onto the specifics. With the like greater playoff pool, is that for this year though? The 12 teams? I think 12 teams is this year. I think pitch clock and the like play everybody once is 2023 or 2024.
Wait, hold on. We're in 2022. See, I think it's expanded playoffs. I believe that the pitch clock is going to be 2023. I think. Now, what about banning the shift? Where are you on this? I've talked about this a lot.
The shift, believe it or not, I've been kind of indifferent on, because on one hand, the shift I've kind of indifferent on. Because on the one hand, I think you need more action, right? Screw it, everybody. F off. I'm so sick of everybody. Oh, well, why don't you just butt? It's like, all right, I feel like if they figured, I don't know. It just seems like too easy of a solution. I feel like it's got to be harder than that. But at the other hand, I'm like,
is it though? Is it harder than that?
No, I know. Sometimes I'm wondering, like, are we sure? Like, are we sure that this is good? But then on the other hand, I look at it as like, there was a period where I was rooting for the Clippers, as you probably were, because our beloved Chris Paul was playing for them. And there was a fellow by the name of DeAndre Jordan who shot around 30% from the free throw line. And instead of people being like, DeAndre Jordan has to get better, they were like, maybe they should change the foul rules. And I'm like, if he was just shooting 60%, which isn't good, by the way, then they wouldn't be doing that. So it feels like you're kind of making rules that are an excuse for players that admittedly just that's a flaw in their game. A flaw in their Joey Gallo. Was Prince Fielder affected by this? I feel like he was once.
I don't know. I mean, there's so many guys now. You could just mention that. Any left-handed first baseman, there is subject to this
exactly. It's like, well, in fairness, that's a flaw in their game, and you're giving a benefit to people who know how to hit to opposite sides of the field. I don't like it. Now, the butt part, yes, I think I am wondering whether or not you could just do that. But when people are like, just learn how to hit it across the field, it's like, all right, that's actually a lot harder to do than go like this, guys. Like, come on.
Right.
So I'm honestly kind of mixed. If you want to get rid of it and your thing is, I want more action, I get that. But I actually think that there's a decent thing to be said where you see someone smoke a ball, but because there's 7 outfielders in right field,
that's fair.
So
I'm
on both sides.
My opinion on this is with the, oh my God, my dog wants to just go right now. Bowie, hey, come on now. Right now? Seriously, gonna do this? Unbelievable. What a train wreck today for me. I held a dog this weekend. My thing is that the shift inherently, I'm not sure if this is true, speeds up the game just in the sense of, look, it's playing off players' tendencies, right? If they know you're going to hit the ball the right side more, and they put more guys there, there's a better chance they get you out more often, right? So the speed of the game, it helps. Also, Javi, I'm wondering, it is this action the shift is taking away? Is it action that would inherently make baseball a better entertainment product, right?
It's a
Because
great point, right?
so the DH replacing the pitcher, Nelson Cruz hitting over a pitcher, a Patrick Corbin. Good Lord,
Mm-hmm.
Bowie, is going to make the game more exciting, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
Nelson Cruz hits tanks. He hits
Mm-hmm.
bombs. Bombs are fun. We love that. And that is a change that makes the game more exciting.
Mm-hmm.
The shift taking that away does not, double up the gap, or it gets through between the shortstop and the second baseman. Wow! Like nobody's like, yeah, let's see how the gap we had. You see that? You see that slow roller up the middle? No, it's nobody's like, because there's a guy not behind. Bowie's just going crazy now. He loves my point. Just because there's a guy not behind second base, doesn't make the game more exciting. So I'm gonna let you react to that. And I'm gonna close my door so the dog doesn't keep barking.
Yeah, I think that in a lot of ways, because I also want to add another point to this. And another point to this is some people are saying, well, you want to make the game shorter? Well, generate more outs quickly, right? And this is very funny just talking to myself right now. But, you generate more outs. And as a result, if the games last longer, like, is that always such a good thing? I remember when people were complaining about the no-hitters, that influx of no-hitters that vanished afterwards, where it's like, well, in fairness, the game did go quicker. So I actually wonder if from that perspective, is it better to have the shift and whatnot? Again, I'm really mixed on this. I don't know, because like you said, it's not necessarily like something people are like ranting and cheering for, right?
Were people complaining about the 3 batter minimum? I forget about that.
I feel Josh, like I said earlier, they were probably complaining
because the thing about that is, and so they still have this in college baseball too, where there's no 3 batter minimum. I'm not sure if it's necessarily true, but I've still called games this year where they're bringing a guy in to face one person. Now you can do that in Major League Baseball, obviously, for the end of an inning or whatever. But like, I remember watching the Gabe Kapler Phillies days, and you're like, oh my God, I am going to be here all day watching. We got let's go to the pen again. We've used 4 pitchers and 5 batters. Like that stuff, I'm glad it ended. So look, and as long as you're open to workshopping some of this stuff, that's what matters, right? Maybe you do something and it doesn't work, and you just peel it back.
Exactly.
Like the challenge, right? For pass interference in the NFL, we saw, I forgot who it was. Was it the Saints player? Saints player just gets absolutely assaulted.
Oh yeah,
in front of a referee.
One, yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, well, that just cost him probably a trip to the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl, right? And then the challenge is on pass interference, and we're like, this is taking too long. Nothing positive is actually coming from this. They're not getting these overturned, and so I think as a byproduct, they've gotten rid of that, right? They said, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. So all this stuff is take and give, right? All this stuff is. You have to be now. The only problem is I don't know how their ability to make rule changes within a CBA, right? What is their ability to do that? That's a big question. But as long as you're willing to say, "Hey, this did not work," I'm fine with it. I actually am upset that we're getting rid of 7-inning doubleheaders.
Me too.
I'm pretty upset.
Why do you guys want longer games? Who cares?
Yeah,
it's actually kind of different and fun.
We don't need 18 innings in a day. We need, especially now, like they're going to cram the spring training in and whatnot. They're going to get games going. Yeah. And, at some point somebody's going to play these 9-inning doubleheaders, and it's like, you're concerned about it. I love the 7-inning doubleheaders, and also still letting you bring up extra guys. It's good stuff. Right. So I like the 7-inning doubleheaders. I like going to the 7-inning doubleheaders. I hated the fact that they were split. That's garbage. If you're going to go set 2 7-inning doubleheaders, they need to be the same. They should not, none of this, non-single admission double headers. They should be single admission. I get it. More tickets, whatever prices, whatever. You want to sell, get your money. That's fine. But it's just there's such a mix of stuff. And look, I'm glad you and I can now have a conversation about what we like, what we don't like, as opposed to we're $50 million in the salary cap. Why the hell are we talking about rules, right? Yeah. So I'm glad we're in a space to talk about the rules. But look, I'm not as resistant as some others. Sure, the shift's going away, but I just want to see how it plays out first.
Just people are talking to themselves. It's just like baseball fans don't care about like, yeah, but do other people want to watch 2 9-inning games? I don't do that in 2021 or 2022, sorry, where I don't know, maybe you could go watch the new season of Upload and you could watch, Atlanta that's coming out instead of watching 2 baseball games in a 162 game season. That's always been my thing. I don't care about how long the games are. It's the season length. And how do you make the season length feel a little bit shorter? Make it that some games can at least feel a little bit different than one another. Hey, with the shift thing, maybe you say you can only do it 3 times a game. Maybe you add a little bit of strategy to it. I don't know. Like at least it's a something, right? And then the last thing I think before we kind of shut it that I wanted to get your thoughts on is the expanded postseason with 12 teams. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so I'm cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
The counter argument would be here is that you're playing so many regular season games,
Yeah.
so it should be more selective, right? We shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be letting more teams in if we're going to have such a long season to determine, who are the best teams, right? A season of this length should be more selective. Same thing can be said in the NBA, right? If we're going to play 82 games and we're going to have 16 teams in the playoffs, like the first couple rounds can be blow-off rounds. Now, the money is there. That's why they do these things, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
potential to have 4 7-game series, which brings in a lot of ticket revenue. But I will say this, if you make the MLB playoffs, you can win it, right? It's just we know this is true now. If you in the wild card game, we know you can win it, right? The Braves were the worst division winner in the National League last year, and they barnstormed their way to the playoffs. So the number of teams that could win it on a given year, in my opinion, now increases, right? I think that's just pretty logical. But I'm cool with it. I would. My trade-off would be shortening the season. I would say, all right, if we're going to expand the playoffs, just go to 150, 100%. Right? We don't need to keep adding more games. I think the season, in my opinion, should be 150 as it is right now. I think that's, once again, losing 12 games, whatever. I understand it. But look, there's no reason for us to play 162, right? There are some teams that are dead in the water. It's like, well, we can just, F around for a month or two. It doesn't really matter. But if we just turn it on at the right time, we're fine and good to go, right? Nationals being a great case, 19-31. And the thing about the 1931 Nationals World Series year, we're not like in jeopardy of missing the playoffs. I mean, there were tight times, but they were in pretty good shape, as they head into August. So they had plenty of time to turn around as it was. The extra 12 games are of no consequence to me. So I would say that. But what are your thoughts on it, the expanded playoffs?
I think that there is a world in which this works and in which it doesn't work. Yes, did I just pull another middle grad thing? Yes, I know, but hear me out. On the one hand, we need stars in the playoffs, man. You need people to be like, guess what? You know that Vlad Jr., that maybe you're not a big baseball fan, but you've heard of him in the corner of your thing? This is why he's awesome. He's going to get a shot at the postseason. Fernando Tatis Jr. I know that the Nationals wouldn't even have made it probably in a 12-team thing, but Juan Soto, right? So that's positive, and you get more people interested in like, oh, crap, we made the playoffs. Hey, we can make it. There's a little bit more for me to care about instead of feeling like, yeah, my team is in rebuild or great. Like there's only 2 modes. The negative is I'm not totally sure that in a world where the Baltimore Orioles are spending about as much money on their entire team as the Padres are spending on one player or the Dodgers, that this is going to suddenly make teams want to spend more based on what we have seen already. That teams are like, nope, 25 million's good with us. And instead, you might encourage them to be like, well, that we might actually still make it if we don't spend too much money. So does it potentially create an issue where teams are going to have even more of a reason not to invest in their team, as we saw in the 2020 season, where a team below 500 could make it to the postseason? It's a possibility. I don't know if that's like a guarantee. Again, I was just saying we need change in some way, but I do fear that your Cleveland Guardians situation, your Tampa Bay Rays, this is a sport where not just the bad teams don't spend, but the good teams don't. The Tampa Bay Rays are like, we've been great. Oh, we're the greatest organization. You have all these people slurping and talk how good they are. It's like, talk to me when you win a title. Please just talk to me when you win a title.
That's fair.
Then we
it's
can
very
talk.
Fair.
Will it encourage those teams to do that? I mean, this is a sport where the best teams don't sign the better guys. You know what I mean? Imagine if, like, in basketball, where a team had, like, all this cap space and they were, like, on the precipice of a title and they're like, you know what? Actually, we're trading Chris Paul. It's like, what?
Right. Yeah. Like, what the hell are we doing? Yeah.
That's what keeps happening in baseball. So, again, I'm excited for my team because this is helpful for like us making the playoffs, but I do fear what happens if teams are shown that actually maybe we don't have to try for this. Universal DH though, I think everybody universally is like,
yeah. Well, no, there's still people like I'm a baseball hat, whatever. All right, Javi, I got to stop this dog from terrorizing my neighbors. Where can people find you and your work and all of its variety?
At Javipeno on Twitter, JAVIIPENO. I am pointing to it right now. If you see me pointing to it, that means you're watching the YouTube. Locked On Padres on YouTube. Obviously, Locked On Nationals on YouTube too. Got to support the homie. And at LO_Padres on Twitter for all Padres tweets. Very good stuff. And podcast going to be talking about Trent Grisham, any of the free agent signings that come in. Hopefully, by the time you guys hear this, Seiya Suzuki's a Padre somehow or whatever. Lots of good times indeed. And I tend to write about pop culture stuff. So if you want to follow me on there as well.
You can follow me at Josh _. You can find the show wherever you guys get your podcast and on YouTube. Let me stop this dog from terrorizing my neighbors. Javi, it was a pleasure.
As always, sir.